Hello everyone. So I spent my last winter break of 2025 volunteering for an organization in the country of Senegal in Africa, West Africa. This was my first time in Africa. And Senegal, for those who don't know, I have an Indian passport, and if you do have an Indian passport, you can visit Senegal without applying for an additional visa, so that makes travel really easy. And I spent around 3 weeks in Senegal in totality, and I had like 13 working days or 14 working days with the organization. And of course I went around the Christmas and New Year's time, so there were a few days which all of us had as vacation days. I want to talk about my experience in Senegal, and primarily I want the situation of the Talibé children, the children who I had gone to volunteer for. I want to talk about them primarily. So I want to address a few questions first that a lot of people have been asking me, so we can get that out of the way and we can start talking about what's actually happening with the children who are forced to go out and beg for their survival. Number one, how did you decide to go to Senegal? I told you, if you have an Indian passport, you don't really require a visa, and that was a big part of my decision. I travel alone a lot. So, when you travel alone, it can get monotonous after a point, and volunteering by default gives your day a structure. So I thought that I wanted to volunteer. I had this thing in my head for a long time. I was looking for organizations, and then I came across this organization. The name is Maison de La Gare. It's a French name. French is widely spoken in Senegal, apart from their other language, which is Wolof, and then some other languages like Pular, which are also very common in the West African countries. So I came across this organization, Maison de La Gare, and I filled their form. They have a form in their on their website, and I will link the website in the description. And if you want to volunteer with them, it's in a city known as Saint Louis in Senegal. It's in the westernmost coast of Senegal and very close to Mauritania. So very far away from the capital city of Dakar, around 5 hours of ride by car. But there this organization works, and I filled their form, and they responded back and they were like, hey, we saw that you filled our form, are there any questions, blah blah blah. And I asked them a series of questions because again I had never been to Africa before, and I wanted to like know what I have to do because this is a completely unknown thing for me. They were so responsive on the email. They answered every single one of my questions and all the doubts that I had. They provide you an option of living with a host family. You have to pay them obviously for a certain amount, which is not too big, for living and for food. The host family provides you everything. They cook for you also, or you can get like a hotel if you can afford it, or you can get something else, but I took the option for a host family. So when you reach there, they pick you up because they understand that it's a new country. So I was picked up from Dakar airport and I was driven to St. Louis, and when I was coming back I was driven back to Dakar. So they basically took care of me and they were extremely responsive. So even before I went to Senegal, the way they were responding to my questions, I felt like I can trust these people. They have a legitimate organization and people before me have volunteered for them. So I decided this is a great opportunity for me. And before this, I knew nothing about what is happening with the children there. Who are the Talibés? Who are these children? What is a Daraa? What is a Marabu? I had no clue before I went. And number two, is it safe? Everybody asks me, is it safe? Senegal is one of the safest countries in Africa. It is pretty peaceful. However, I do want to explain that you cannot turn off your mind, which you shouldn't if you go anywhere. You, number one is, you don't know the local language. you don't know Wolof, you don't know French. Most of us, even if you do know French, you don't know the local culture. So it's the same kind of a thing that a foreigner, like an American or a European, when they visit India for the first time, the kind of overwhelm that they experience from every corner, it can be similar. You can experience a lot of like noise, the culture can be different, people can try to rip you off, there is going to be some catcalling, and eventually what I discovered was if I just cover my hair, like in India we put a dupatta, if I put a scarf over my hair, they will be confused. They won't be able to see if I'm a hijabi or I'm not a hijabi. And I will look a little unapproachable, so they will not approach me. So I started doing that. And it's not like everybody's out there to get you, but it is a thing. So these are things that you have to be careful about because you don't know the culture. So it's always better to keep your eyes open. It's always better to either travel with a local friend or ask a local friend questions. If they can't come with you everywhere, ask them, hey, from this place to this place, what is a normal taxi fare, because so that you don't get ripped off. But when a person like me goes to a country like that where I'm completely unaware of both the local languages which are spoken, I think in part you sign up for it. You sign up for that experience to be a little challenging and you can't always complain about it. Another thing is food. If you are vegetarian or vegan, can be a challenge. And again, because you also don't know the language, there's a lot of challenge in you explaining what you want. And they a lot of the times I was offered fish and rice, and then they said we can just take away the fish and you can eat the rice. But then I had to explain, no, if it's cooked together, then I cannot eat it. So, but again, those are challenges you sign up for. And in the city of St. Louis, there are two parts. So there is one city which is connected to the land, the rest of the Senegal, and then through a bridge there's the island part of the city. And the island part of the city is pretty colonial in its architecture, because apparently that is where the French and their families used to predominantly live. And you will find that a lot of tourists, mostly they live on this side, the island side. Because I lived with a I lived with a local family, I lived on the main side, the land side of the city. But if you go to this island side of the city, you will find hotels, you will find bars, you will find restaurants that offer a lot of the things that you may not find on this side. So that's that, but it's extremely expensive, you have to take care of that. Finding good bathrooms sometimes can be a challenge when you're outside, when you're out on your own. So that is something you need to be careful about. If you go to parts of the country where foreigners visit more, where Europeans visit more, there are some hotels where they cater to the European public. There you will find the bathrooms have toilet papers and the bathrooms are bigger and cleaner and spacious. A lot of the times when you are not going to places which are specifically catering to foreigners, the bathrooms will not have toilet paper because they don't use toilet paper in the country, they use water. So that is something that you might want to be careful for. And the first few days that I was in the country, I carried my own hand wash because some places it's possible they don't have hand wash. I carried my own toilet paper and I carried my own water in a big bottle. They recommend that you don't drink tap water, which I also say you shouldn't. I have done it. In my host family, after a point, I just gave up and started drinking tap water and I am okay. But a lot of people have done it and they have gotten their stomach upset. So I would recommend you don't do it. Not if, just don't do it. Just if you can buy good water, buy good water. And carrying water, another reason you do it is because a lot of the establishments, if you go, you use the bathroom, it's possible that there is no water. So first few days if you do that, after that you will have an idea which restaurant has a good bathroom, good toilet, sorry, which restaurant you can go to get a glass of wine, where you can get some good coffee. You will get an idea after spending some time, and then you can plan your day accordingly. But it's always better to carry your own stuff. So that's that. Water can be a problem, but I have to tell you, my host family was so sweet, and most of these host families, they are so sweet. There has never been a time where I couldn't have a shower. I could always have a shower. It's just that obviously here you just go to your bathroom, turn on the shower, and that's it. And there sometimes you have to wait because there's no running water, so it has to be brought from downstairs and they heat it up for you and then you take it. So with a little bit patience, everything can be solved. It's all solvable. It's a new experience. Most people are nice. People are majorly kind and nice. And of course, you have to be a little bit alert to be able to avoid unpleasantness, to be able to avoid catcalling, because it is a part of what happens. You will be taking a lot of taxis because there is a public transport system. There are buses and there are trains, but it is nowhere near as regular and as extensive as the ones that we see in some Western countries, not all. So, and if you want to use the public transport system, it's like you have to know the local language and the culture. Otherwise, it's very difficult. Same in India, in some 2-3 tier cities, in villages, you have to kind of know the local things, because there is no app. At least I didn't find an app where I could download it, and in at least smaller towns, I can see, okay, which bus is going to take me from this point to that point. So you have to be a local. So you will be taking a lot of taxis, and taxis are not super expensive. But again, you need to consult always your friends. They will tell you how much you can pay so you don't get ripped off. That is an overview. Overall, I did have a really, really good time. I'm not gonna lie, it was tiring. But you sign up for an experience like that, so you know that it's going to be tiring. There are going to be challenges. You are going to encounter a lot of situations which are going to be first time situations for you. But I could do everything that I wanted to do. I was able to find a gym where I could go and run. I was able to find food. I was able to get water every day to have a shower. So I was not like lacking in anything. You need a little bit patience, but again, when you sign up for something like that, you sign up for an experience. So I already told everything about the place, the highlights at least, and about the organization. And I told you the organization, the people were incredibly helpful. They kept checking in on me. Some of my students from my English class still check up on me. So they are very, very kind. Now I want to talk about the Talibè children, because this is something that I also learnt after going there. There are Quranic schools in not just Senegal, but in countries of West Africa below Senegal, Guinea-Bissau, in Mauritania, in all these countries, in Mali also, maybe also in Morocco. There are these schools where they provide Quranic education, because the country and the West African side is predominantly Muslim. Not all of it, but Senegal is around 93% Muslims. So they have these schools where children are taught Quran essentially. Now these schools are known as Daraas. So in a Daraa, a child goes to learn Quran. Around South Asia, we have madrasas, which are similar Quranic schools where children are sent to learn Quran. The children who go to these Quranic schools, these kids are known as talibs or talibés. A talib is a student in Arabic. So basically it's a student of Quran. Now some of these Quranic schools are just regular schools where children don't have to stay. They come either before their normal school or after their normal school to learn Quran. From what I learned from speaking to people in Senegal, at least, if you are Muslim, you will go to a Daraa. You will go to some kind of a Quranic school. Anybody who has better knowledge can correct me, but you will go to a Daraa to learn Quran if you are in Senegal. A lot of what children from normal families do, families which are financially well off, is that they will send their kids to the Daraa in the morning, sometimes at 4 or 5. By 7, the child is done learning. The child comes back and gets ready for the normal school where that child can learn English, math, etc. etc. And the child is sent there. Or sometimes it's after school. So you do your regular school and then after that you go to a Daraa and then you come back to your house to sleep, to eat, everything. There is another kind of a Daraa which is more like a residential boarding school where parents send away their children to live. So not only do you learn Quran there, you live, sleep and eat there. Now these residential Daraas where children, small children from the age of 4 or 5, I think a child can come until whichever age, like 15, 20. So in these Daraas, which are the residential Daraas, we have multiple kinds of Daraas. I was working with a colleague of mine and he told me there is green, blue and red Daraas. That is how they categorize these Daraas. The good Daraas, the good residential Daraas are Daraas where parents send away their children for 2 years or 3 years, and the reasons are different. Some children, I have been told, are very naughty, so they are sent, so that like parents send away their children to boarding schools to have them live on their own and to learn discipline, etc. Sometimes parents believe that a particular Daraa is good, but the parents live somewhere else. So they send their children to this Daraa which they believe is good. So the child has to live there. Now even these Daraas where the child has to live for a certain number of years, some of them are good. The residential Daraas, they provide the child good food, water, a good hygienic place to stay, water to have a shower, to go to the toilet, basic necessities. And after the Daraa, the child also goes to have formal education where the child is learning math, English, physics, chemistry, the thing that it can use to get into this system to find employment in the future. So these are the good residential Daraas. These good residential Daraas obviously are the Daraas where parents have to pay. So the parent send away their children for a certain number of years and they keep paying the Daraa to provide the child with boarding, food, etc. This is like a boarding school, like any other boarding school. There are a certain number of Daraas which are residential Daraas, but in these Daraas, the parents, mostly poor, mostly from very small villages, not only in Senegal but small villages in Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, small villages in these neighboring countries, they send away their children. And when I am saying children, in these Daraas particularly, I have only seen boys. And mostly for residential purposes, girls are not sent out. So also here, it's mostly young boys, they are sent away. In these Daraas, the parents don't pay anything. Not only do they not pay anything, they barely keep in touch. They never mostly keep in touch with their children. The children are just basically sent away. and they come to these Daraas. Here, they are given Quranic lessons for 2 hours a day, maybe 3 hours a day. The teacher who gives them these lessons is called the Marabu. The Marabu is the teacher. After this 2 or 3 hour lesson, the child, for the rest of the day, because the child is given no food from the Dara, the child is given no water, the child is not really given any clothes unless there is a donation, somebody donates clothes, and a child is not given, they sleep on the floor. I have a separate video where we have visited these Daras, and it can be around 40 boys from the age of 5 to the age of 20, 22 sometimes, sleeping in one small room and sleeping on the floor unless somebody has donated mats or mattresses. They sleep on the floor. So these boys, after they receive their lesson, in order to eat, in order to drink, in order to have anything at all, any amount of money, every single day they go out to beg. That is the daily routine for these children. They go out to beg every single day, and they also, apart from arranging, in addition to arranging for food and for water for themselves, which they can only get via begging, they are not provided that from anywhere. They also have to make sure that they get some cash in the arms, because they have to give a certain amount of cash to the Marabu, to the teacher, every day in exchange for teaching them and in exchange for letting them live in the school, in the Dara. In most cases, these are like slum-like settlements, very small, but you will find one concrete room, but mostly these are just tents where these boys can just sleep, and then for the rest of the day they go to learn Quran, and then they go out to beg. So this is the routine of this child, this Talib, from the time he is sent to the Dara until the time that the child graduates. And graduation mostly means that the child has found some employment in some restaurant, or the child has found something to do, or the child has decided to become a Marabu himself. So he is going to set up a similar kind of a tent structure where he is going to ask people to send their kids to him, and the kids are going to live in this tent, and they are going to go out to beg, and they are going to come back and give him money, and using that money he will build a good concrete house for himself. So this is the system. I know that hearing of it like this, there are a lot of questions which people have, and I don't know if I can answer all of the questions in a way that satisfies you or satisfies someone who's listening, because I had a lot of questions and I was not satisfied always by all the answers that I got. The most important question is, why do parents send their kids away? Because these are parents from small villages of Guinea Conakry, Guinea-Bissau, sending their kids thousands of kilometers away, hundreds of kilometers away, and these kids are illegally crossing these borders. Because let me tell you, making children beg in this exploitative way is illegal in Senegal. It is already criminal, but you will see the streets of St. Louis, the streets of a city as big as Dakar, filled with these begging children. But I am from India, so it's not like I have never seen this. The streets of a lot of our big cities are filled up with children. A lot of those children we know have been abducted by someone and are being used to beg. A lot of those children are being used by their own parents. We are aware, it's like happening in plain sight, and it's a similar situation. So coming from the culture that I come from, I somewhat understand, because the cops cannot go after the marabout. It's a system. Marabouts or Quranic teachers and religious figures, they have a lot of reverence and respect in society, and they also have a lot of political leverage. So you cannot just go after them very easily. It's just something you can't do. So even though on paper making children beg is illegal, the streets are filled with them. You almost become numb to the fact that anywhere you go, children will come running after you, asking for alms or asking for food. Uh, so yeah, that's that. It's not legal, but also villagers, the people in the city, they also some of them don't intervene because it's something that they have always grown up with. Some of them, like people in my organization or a lot of families in cities like St. Louis, I have seen, they will try to help. My organization was trying to help in one way. Some families will take up a Talibè, they will take up a student, and they will say, okay, you can come every day to our house, you can have a shower here, you can eat, we will give you food for 3 times, and also maybe a little money to give you a marabu, or maybe not the money part. And that child obviously has to clean the house in return, so it's not for free, but it's some kind of a help. I know from the western lens this is like child labor, which it is, but in that system, living in that system, these people are trying to go one step ahead and trying to help someone who otherwise would be begging on the streets. um, and some people in the city, in the village, also take advantage of these children, because in the market they have something to do, and if they ask a professional, they have to pay that professional maybe 2 euros. But if they ask a young talib, hey, will you do this for me, they have to pay the talib 10 cents, because it's a child. It's a 5-year, 6-year, 10-year child. That is all they know. That is all they know, and they will not fight with you. They will not say this is not the fair price for my labor. So it's a mix of cultural and social and political and economic factors, and this system is embedded in the culture. So as ruthless as it seems from the outside, it's a part of the culture. Now, yeah, I will come back to the parents. The question that kept bothering me was, why do these parents send their kids away? If you want to make them beg, you can make them beg in front of you. I don't know, like if you absolutely have no money, because if you send your kids away hundreds of kilometers in a country where the child is living illegally because he is not supposed to be in that country, and you never for the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years make an effort to talk to this child, how will you know if the child is alive or dead? And don't you want to know if your child is alive or dead? I don't know, I don't understand. I asked this to several people, and the truth is, some of these children, they come when they are 5, when they are 4, and they remember nothing, but they remember the name of their parents. If they don't, sometimes the marabu reminds them, but they don't remember the faces. By the time they are 15, by the time they are 20, they don't remember the faces of the parent doesn't remember the face of the child. So yeah, I don't know, that is one thing I'm still struggling to understand. Some people have told me it's poverty, which obviously if you have money, I don't know why you will send away your child. Some have told me some people want to get rid of their responsibility. They have too many children, and if it's a girl, they will try to get the girl married when she is 14, when she is 15. And if it's a guy, as soon as the guy, sometimes 5, 6, sometimes 4, I know a marabu in this city, in that country, so this is my relative knows someone, so they will send their child away. They get rid of the responsibility, and they have the psychological comfort perhaps of telling themselves, at least my child is going to go learn Quran. If my child stayed here, he would have become a gambler, he would have become a goon, he would have become, at least he is learning something useful. And I've been told some parents don't know that the children have to go out to beg. But then, why would you assume that somebody will simply pay for your child's food for the next 15 years? And even if you don't know your child has to beg, you do know that you are not going to speak to your child for the next 15 years. So, or maybe never, because there are cases where the Talibés are there, the parents are there, and one of these two people die. The parents die sometimes while the Talibé is away, the Talibé dies sometimes when the parents are away. Sometimes after 15 years, 20 years, when the Talibé graduates, when they are done with the Daraa, they have no memory or they have no desire to go visit their parents. So even if you don't know that they are going to be made to beg, how can you possibly be okay with I don't know the answers. I don't know, but I understand that this is not the first time that I'm reading about or seeing parents leave people to die, children to die. This does happen. Parental abuse and parental abandonment, as uncomfortable as we are in the world, it's a very crucial reality. And I don't fully understand the reasons or the psychology, because every person I've spoken to has given me a different answer. But yeah, you can find out your own answer as to why they think that it's okay. But also, when we grow up with certain things, we tend to think that those things are okay. When these kids they spend their time begging and learning Quran, and the conditions in these daras are so unhygienic, needless to say. They have no water, they sleep on the floor. They, a lot of the times, to collect some valuables or to look for some leftover food, they go to trash. They go to places where there is a lot of garbage. Sometimes the garbage collection area is right next to the dara where these kids are. These red daras, these daras which make the kids beg. These are just like tent settlements. And my colleague used to say, when you see like a settlement like this, which looks completely ambushed and tent like, you will know that it's a dara, it's a red dara. This is where they are making kids beg. And they are in the middle of the city. It's not like they are outside the city, they are in plain sight. Everything is happening in plain sight. So the conditions are so unhygienic, and these are 40 kids living in the same place. Now, a lot of them develop skin conditions. I saw a lot of children with scabies when I was there, and once one child gets it, it's incredibly easy to spread. And already they have this skin condition, but even with that skin condition, they have no water. They are going to these dirty places again and again. I was working in the infirmary. That's another thing. If these kids get sick, they have nowhere to go get treated. So in the organization Maison de La Gare, they have an infirmary where these talibs could come, and they used to also write the name of the dara that they are from. And if from one dara a lot of children are coming with scabies, then you know that you should visit that dara, because there is probably an outbreak. So you have to visit and treat them. We visited, me, my colleague in the infirmary, and another girl who had come from Belgium. She is a nurse, I believe. She's still there, and she has come to volunteer for 2 months. So we had gone to a dara where we wanted to treat scabies, and for 2 or 3 hours there was a line of small children. and they were coming one by one, and you have to treat it and you have to dress it, and it's very scary for you also because you cannot have it touch you because it's easier to spread. Another thing is sometimes you have to pull the dead skin out from the wound of the scabies, otherwise the cream will not reach. And as a non-medical professional, it's very difficult to do. Like, I was scared. I was very, very scared. So there are a lot of diseases which like break out in these daras because the conditions are very unhygienic. Uh, Also in Islam generally, and in a lot of countries, even in India, even in Senegal, charity is an essential part of you being a good person. So it is socially encouraged to donate to people and to give alms to people who are begging. It's considered as good karma, not in Islam, but an equal concept, a comparable concept. So, a lot of people also give alms to these children, but those alms a lot of the times end up in the hands of the marabu, the teacher, and the teachers, the marabus, they very rarely live with these kids. They actually never live with in the red daras, in the daras where the children are begging. The marabus don't live there. Marabus collect money from these kids, the child who is 5 to the child who is 20, 22, who are going out to beg, and they that is their source of earning. So with the money that is collected from these children's begging, they make concrete houses for themselves and they live there with their wife, their child. So and I have also been told that the marabus also subject the children to beating when they are not able to arrange the money. So these are teachers and bullies and extortionists all packaged in one. But they have a lot of political leverage. Like all religious leaders have a lot of political leverage. I cannot sit here and pretend like we are religious figures in India don't have the leverage. They get away with sexual assaults in my country too. So I have a basic understanding that this does happen. This is the story of the Talibés, and I will be linking down links where you can go and you can donate. And if you don't want to donate, you can learn about this situation and you can raise awareness. Because ultimately, yes, you can donate, and that is great because the children, when I went, it was winters. And the children are they are never even given a mattress, let alone a blanket. So whatever they are able to get, they are able to get because people donate. And in the organization that I worked for, they also get classes for English and maths and French, so that they have some hope of finding some employment, of assimilating in society in some way once they are out of these daras. Because otherwise, you are just, what are you going to do? You have no real world knowledge. So try to donate because whatever they get, if they are not sleeping on the ground, it's not something that the marabu gave them or the dara gave them, it's because of the donation. If they are able to find new clothes, it's because of the donation. Spread the word so that these winters they can have more clothes, warmer clothes, because it can get pretty chilly in the night. I was there and it does get very chilly. And you think of how they must be sleeping. But ultimately, this situation will change with greater awareness. And even if you cannot donate, if you can read a little bit about this, if you can share it with 10 people and they share it with 10 people, and one of those people is interested in volunteering and he or she ends up spending a month or 2 months there, that is how more awareness can be created. And with more awareness in the next 10-20 years, I think this entire situation can be changed. people can be made aware that these are small kids essentially being exploited. Yeah, so if you can, please share, please go to their website, read about what they are doing. Yeah, this is our world, and we should learn about it. Now, I have already said, I think, pretty much everything I wanted to say. I highly recommend working with this organization. They make sure you are safe, they take good care of you, and you are given time to explore where you fit also. So, this is a great learning experience. If you are interested in volunteering, I know there are a lot of people like me. Please check their page out. If you are interested in donating, I will also add all the links below. Whatever money you give, it goes, right now it will primarily go in arranging warm clothes for these Talib children. And eventually it will go in arranging better education systems for these children. So they can come, they can study, they have a hope for a future outside of the Daraa system. Because if they don't learn anything but this, the only option they very often have when they graduate is they become a marabu. They set up their own red Daraa where children come and they are sent to beg, and that's how they make money. So this is where the donations are going to go. Consider donating, and if you cannot, consider sharing. I want to answer one last question that a lot of people have asked me. As I came back, a lot of people asked me, how did you manage not being heartbroken looking at these children, or how did you manage your mental health? Some people have told me, I don't think I could, because this is a very harsh reality and it's too painful for me to see. And I want to talk a little bit about that. Number one is, when you are around these children, now this is me speaking about this in a third person way right now, and I felt like crying a couple of times when I was narrating this. But when you are with these children, with the Talibés, these children, you discover kids don't look at their life, they don't analyze their lives like we do as adults. So these children are not living in this perpetual state of tragedy and self-pity, and none of this is to say that what is happening is not deeply, deeply traumatic. But when you are around these children, it's not that the air enveloping you is filled with trauma and tragedy. That is not what you feel. Most of the times what you feel is that you are around children. That is what you feel. They are naughty, they have too much energy, it's difficult to control them, they start laughing and then they start crying, then after 2 minutes they are laughing again. They are not analyzing their lives through our lens. They are not victimizing themselves in their own heads. They don't have the awareness. And when you interact with them and you discover they are not victimizing themselves, why should I victimize them? And again, that is not to say that they aren't victims of a very vicious system. They are. But when you are with them, when you are working with them, you see them play, you see them laugh, you see them fight, you see them make fun of each other. Like sometimes when there is scabies, it very often takes the crotch area. Like the area around your crotch is where it attacks. And when there are small boys, we have to ask them gently to take off their clothes so we can clean that. And another guy who's a friend of this small guy, he will stand there and laugh at this guy, and this small boy will cry. And then after 5 minutes, when it is this boy's turn, he will come and this other boy will laugh at him. So they are not living in this state of victimhood. They laugh at each other, they laugh at themselves. Perhaps when they are 40, when they are 45, if they are able to get out of this system, they will look back and they will see what a tragedy it was. If they are able to get out. If they don't, then this will be their normal for the rest of their lives. But I just want you to know that they are not looking at themselves with sympathy. So, and you get inspired to not look at them like that. You get inspired to treat them like kids. Like, hey, don't be noisy, pay attention, please, I'm trying to teach you English. Or don't laugh at your friend, he's crying. It's like managing any normal child. And somewhere I feel this level of kind of detachment that comes while you are in a situation, rather than reading about that situation, it helps you deal with them. Because yes, they are not victimizing themselves, but a lot of them are hungry, a lot of them are cold, a lot of them are sick and tired, but they still have to go out to beg. So when somebody is suffering, the last thing that person wants is for you to go around them and to make it about you and how much you are suffering while seeing them suffering. You have to be able to contain their grief, to contain their suffering, to contain their discomfort, because again, these children are cold and they are sometimes sick and they are tired. So you cannot go in that situation and make it about yourself. And a level of detachment helps. And number two that I want to tell you is, in my model of the world, in the world that I have seen, I do think of human beings as opportunistic beings. I think that people abandoning people, the way these parents have abandoned their children because they didn't want to deal with them, they didn't want the responsibility, is not uncommon in the world that I have seen. We do that, we see that in all human relationships, we see that in friendships, we see that in sibling relationships, we see that in romantic relationships, we also see that in parental relationships, and we also see sometimes children do it to parents. One human being abandoning another human being because they don't want the responsibility or because they have nothing to gain from that human being is not uncommon in the world that I understand, in my model of the world, because I think that's what people do. Not everybody does that. Not everybody does that all the time. And it doesn't justify it. It's still very cruel. But I think this is the reality of our world. I think people, the greatest loyalty we have as human beings is to our own desires, to our own greeds, to our own survival, to our own convenience. So it didn't rattle me that these parents had decided to just cut their children off and then never think about those children again, never think about my child must be cold or my child must be hungry or my child must be crying. I know not everybody does that, but I also know that people like that exist. So I just don't know what to say. It didn't rattle me. I know that this exists in the world. I know people leave people to die when they become useless. So my focus was like, okay, how do we make this better? So that also protected me. I think my cynicism protected me from being too sad. And when you have things to take care of, you will not be affected. Well, not at least in ways that you imagine. You will be able to take care of them. So if you do want to, the antidote to apathy, and this is the result of apathy, the parents who left these children to die were apathetic to what was going to happen. They just assumed that, okay, he's going to learn Quran, bye bye, I don't have to deal with this. The politicians, the systems which let this system exist, the shopkeepers who ask these young talibs to do something for them for a fraction of the cost that they would have to pay to a grown person, all these people are complicit and all these people have apathy. And apathy is very common in life, I think, in different ways. There is a शेर, an Urdu poetry by Sahir Ludhianvi, कौन किसी और के गम पे रोया, जो भी रोया अपने आप के लिए रोया, something like that. So I think this is human nature. I'm making a segue here. I think it's very rare in life for us to be moved by another person's suffering. I think what moves us is our own mental projections. So in that sense, we are all filled with apathy. And the cure to apathy is if you take an initiative to care. So Talibés, these children, these young children have to get up and they have to go and they have to beg every day. Because one part of the world has decided, and I don't mean one part meaning Senegal, there are a lot of people in Senegal who care. I mean their parents, I mean the marabouts, I mean the politicians who let this happen. That part of the world has decided that they don't care or this is not an issue worth caring for. And The only antidote to apathy is when you decide to care. And I'm happy with the fact that I was involved. I had a very short time there. I only had 3 weeks, but I could do something about the situation rather than saying this is not my problem. And I hope that you all shared this, and I hope that you all are not too scared if some of you want to go volunteer of how it's going to affect you. If you are on the side of taking action against something that you think is wrong, I think you will come out feeling good. So all the links are below. Share this and read about it, talk about it, and hopefully in the next 10 years we don't have children who are forced to go out and beg every day to get food and water and basic necessities of life. Thank you.